Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and look at the incredibly powerful tools we use to protect our coastlines. If you've ever stood on a beach during a storm and just marveled at the sheer force of those ocean waves crashing against the shore, you know exactly what kind of power we're dealing with. It's an amazing display of nature, right? But for communities living right on the water, that power is a constant, everyday threat of erosion and destruction. So today, we are breaking down a really fascinating strategy known as hard engineering, and we're going to explore exactly how we physically try to hold back the sea.
Here is exactly what's on the agenda for today. 1. Defending the coastline. 2. Groynes are wooden barrier defenses. 3. Seawalls, which are concrete protection. 4. Rock armor are boulder barriers. 5. Gabions, those wire mesh cages. And finally, 6. Choosing the right defense. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, Defending the Coastline. We are going to see how massive, man-made structures fight back against the relentless power of the sea.
Now, hard engineering absolutely does not try to work in harmony with nature. Not at all. It is literally all about putting up a large, artificial, heavy-duty barrier right in the ocean's path to absorb wave energy and just stop erosion in its tracks. It's like putting a heavyweight boxer right on the beach. To make this really easy to picture, let's look at some very specific examples.
Moving to Section 2, Groynes are wooden barrier defenses. So what are they? Well, think of them as big wooden fences built straight out into the water. Constructed at direct right angles to the beach, these walls literally trap sand to stop it from washing away. As the waves naturally move sediment down the coast, a process we call longshore drift, these groynes catch that material and hold it firmly in place. But when we talk about engineering on this kind of scale, we always have to look at the numbers. Every single groyne costs about £5,000 to build. Actually, that sounds like a lot, but they do boast a 40-year lifespan, so it's a solid upfront investment that lasts a really good stretch of time. But of course, there's a significant trade-off here. On the plus side, because they trap all that sand, they create wonderful, wide, sandy beaches that are absolutely fantastic for attracting tourists. Plus, they're cheap to maintain, you can still access the beach pretty easily, and they even act as windbreaks. On the flip side, though, the downsides are glaring. Let's be honest. They're visually unappealing, require regular maintenance, and they literally block you from just walking straight down the shoreline. Plus, that sediment buildup can actually become dangerous, making the beach really high on one side, and this is a big one, they are completely ineffective during severe storm conditions.
All right, Section 3, seawalls are concrete protection. Now, unlike groynes that just kind of sit there and trap sand, these concrete giants are active defenders. Placed directly in front of a cleft, their real secret weapon is their curved shape. When a crashing wave hits that curve, all its destructive energy is seamlessly pushed right back out towards the ocean. It physically reflects the wave energy back, offering top-tier protection. But man, that incredible strength comes at a very steep price. We are talking £6,000 per meter. Just imagine needing to protect a single mile of coastline. To put that into perspective, the financial cost quickly becomes absolutely massive. So let's weigh this out. Seawalls provide excellent, long-lasting defense. They give communities a tremendous sense of safety and security. They often create nice tourist promenades you can walk on. And, importantly, they don't block the natural longshore drift of sand like groynes do. But those benefits come at a serious cost. Severe coastal flooding can still happen during huge storms. As we saw, they are incredibly expensive, visually quite ugly, they negatively affect your ability to easily access the beach, and, crucially, laying down tons of concrete utterly destroys the existing natural habitats right there on the coast. Let's look at Section 4, rock armor, our boulder barriers. We aren't just talking about a few loose rocks here. These are large, highly resistant boulders specifically shipped all the way from Scandinavia. Placed right in front of a cliff, or sometimes even in front of a seawall, these giant rugged stones take the absolute brunt of the hit. They absorb the wave energy and dramatically reduce that powerful, damaging backwash. Cost-wise, this sits at a really interesting middle ground. At £3,000 per meter, this option is exactly half the price of a concrete seawall. So the pros: rock armor is much quicker and easier to construct, and obviously cheaper than seawalls. It boasts a long lifespan, offers excellent defense, and it still allows for that natural longshore drift. But there are major drawbacks. Look, £3,000 a meter is still fundamentally expensive. It makes accessing the beach a really difficult scramble over wet, slippery rocks, and most people consider it visually unappealing. But perhaps the biggest downside? The very act of quarrying those massive rocks and shipping them all the way from Scandinavia causes significant environmental damage way before they even reach the beach.
Moving on to Section 5, gabions, the wire mesh cages.
Instead of massive concrete curves or giant Scandinavian boulders, this is a much simpler idea. These are essentially wire cages tightly packed with pebbles or smaller rocks. Lined up right at the back of a sandy beach, they act almost like a giant sponge. As the water hits them, the energy enters the gaps between the rocks and is just harmlessly dissipated.
And the cost? Get ready for this. This is by far our cheapest option at an incredibly low 110 pounds per meter. That is a tiny fraction of the cost of everything else we've looked at today. But as you might guess, this cheap solution comes with very specific limitations. On the positive side, gabions are cheap, quick and easy to build, super easy to maintain, have a long lifespan, and actually look quite natural once sand blows into them and vegetation starts to grow. However, if those wire cages get damaged, they immediately become dangerous, sharp, and very ugly. They also make getting to the beach harder. But the most important takeaway here: gabions are strictly restricted to sandy beaches. If you try to put them on a pebble beach, the loose pebbles being thrown around by crashing waves would literally batter and destroy the wire mesh in no time at all. And that brings us to Section 6, choosing the right defense. We have seen 4 very different ways to engineer coastal protection. So how do we balance the options when there is clearly no perfect solution?
Comparing these side by side makes the financial gap starkly clear, doesn't it? Down at the very bottom, you have the humble wire gabions sitting at a mere 110 pounds per meter. Right in the middle, the Scandinavian rock armor at 3,000 pounds, and towering way up at the top, the massive concrete seawalls, demanding a staggering 6,000 pounds for every single meter constructed. So which trade-offs do you think are truly worth it to protect our shores? Every single hard engineering choice we've discussed today brings some level of visual impact, some environmental disruption, and a very significant financial burden. The power of the ocean certainly isn't going away, which leaves us with a really difficult decision to make. Think about your own local coastline. If you were in charge, which of these strategies would you choose to defend it?